very, very special guests, a husband and wife couple, Brian and Stephanie, and they have something very extraordinary, extraordinary things they're working on and extraordinary things that have happened to them. So I'm just going to ask Brian and Stephanie right away because I just met them within the last week for a specific reason. So could you explain to my audience how we got connected so quick?
Yeah, I think someone suggested that we watch the video because they knew about something that happened to us, and we know what happened to other people. And you had a video on it last week about threats and harassment from the watchtower, and so we have experienced that, and it's a very real thing, and we wanted to come forward and let people know that, you know, it's not really just an isolated thing. Like, I know when we first left Jehovah's Witnesses, and for years and years, we thought that it was an isolated incident, like we were, you know, both abused, but we thought it was isolated, you know, but we've come to find out it's all over. It's generational, and there's more than just that going on. And so we wanted to come forward and tell the story.
Yeah, and also, you know, the similarities, like for me, when I left the watchtower, you know, they were like an abusive husband, you know, coming after me and, you know, trying to pull me back in very abusive ways. You know, I would get chased up the road to my apartment, and you know, I'd barely get the door shut and locked, and they were trying to get in, you know, things like that. So this is something that I've dealt with, you know, from the moment I started acting free. That's the thing that they're most afraid of.
Right. Once they lose control. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll use fear to control you.
Yeah.
You know?
So, but we want to talk about our experiences, but we also don't want to discourage people from coming forward, right? Because we believe that the louder you are, actually, that, you know, I mean, there's safety in that, you know.
And there's safety in numbers too. So
safety in numbers.
A lot of people are coming forward.
Yeah.
Especially we've seen a lot of people come forward the last 6 months even with what's happened to them within Watchtower. So we think it's time. We have good reason to think it's time for people to come together, join together, and we're stronger that way.
Yes. And if we all know what's going on in the, the greater community, we can, you know, watch out for each other more. So
let me jump in real quick. So one thing good about you guys coming forward is that I can say from that video that you guys came across, I've gotten at least 15 people, between certain people that made comments and then people who emailed me directly, who said the same exact thing. In fact, there's someone that said she's going through like the same exact thing she thinks that Selena went through, like she was trafficked within the organization. So what I thought was really unique when I got a hold of you guys was, so when I first got a request on Facebook, and I just looked through your page real quick. I had seen pictures of that car and didn't say what happened. And as soon as I seen how beat up and totaled your car was, and it didn't seem like there's another vehicle involved, like I had it instantly like, I wonder if that was something deliberate. So let me just show my audience what I'm talking about, and if you can explain, Stephanie, what happened. So Stephanie, just looking at this, can you tell us what's going on with this?
Well, you can see the tire marks from where my car, you know, went up the thing. I barely almost hit that wall up there even. Yeah, so I was involved in a serious car crash, and it involved myself and an 18-wheeler. You know, no definitive proof that it was connected to Watchtower or anything, but what I'm going to tell you later makes us think that there's a possibility. And there was no other cars around us. It was just me and the 18-wheeler. He was in the passing lane, and should have had more than enough clearance to get in behind me. Like I said, we were like the only two people within quite a distance of each other. And he just clipped me and dragged me down the highway for a while until my car broke free. I lost unconsciousness and ended up having to get cut out of the vehicle and taken by ambulance to the ER.
Yeah, I think it was good. It was kind of muddy, or else she would have went further up that bank too. And she kind of hit that guardrail, just the end of it, which slowed it down enough, that it may have saved her life. But luckily she's still here. So it was,
Yeah.
a big win that she's still with us, because she's got a lot of work to do.
The eyewitness that, the eyewitness was just baffled. She's like, there's absolutely no reason why that car should have been hit. It was, but who knows? It's a similarity. And so this happened March 25th of this year. Okay. And the reason I advocate, and I work very closely with another survivor. Her name is Shannon Simondinger. Some of y'all may know her from, and this is me. About 10 weeks after the accident, I had internal injuries that they didn't catch. And then they became very apparent and very suddenly apparent. And I had to go in for emergency surgery and almost died again. Yeah, so, one car accident, but two near-death experiences with it. But I want to explain, because this is the key point to why we think there could be a connection to it, is, I work very closely with Shannon Simondinger, whistleblower, very brave advocate out of Maine. She comes out of the Ernie Fiance case, which is very well documented case, similar to what Selena Bertolomo claims of purposeful, organized child trafficking being facilitated and run by those in the highest places of authority in the congregations, such as the elders and that sort of thing. And that is her case. And the thing with it is, anybody that wants, I've never even met Selena Bertolomo, okay? But I feel like I need to protect her because I see the dark truth out there. But going back to Shannon, sorry, I'm kind of skipping around here. Going back to Shannon, she has her case, and she's been followed around by, we live in Pennsylvania, and so does she. She's been being followed around by like black SUVs with New York plates. Everywhere she goes, there they are. So she's gone to the police station and told them, if she ever feels awkward, she'll just drive straight to the police station instead of going, to her normal destination, kind of like, I see you. I'm not intimidated. But in late January, she was run off the road in her vehicle at a hit and run situation. Hit and run. But then we did also want to talk to you about what was going on with Shannon because that it does happen, and it can happen.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. So in your situation, it was this truck itself, right, that deliberately seemed to run you off. Okay, so I want to comment on that too, because I've been dealing with this kind of stuff, and a lot of times truckers, like, can you remember if it was like a sleeper truck, like a like it wasn't like a FedEx truck, right? Or like it wasn't like a FedEx.
It was a big semi, but
okay.
Literally the only thing I saw was the grill when it was like, I felt something and I turned my head and there's the grill. And then
Okay.
next thing I know, I'm boom, 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 and I'm getting cut out of the vehicle and put into an ambulance.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because I guess what I'm getting at is that owner operated truckers, like that are not big companies, they are used a lot for this kind of stuff. I know a friend recently, another
Ah,
XJW who I'm connected with, and something happened to her too, where a truck, I forget exactly what she said, but something to do with an 18 wheeler because the owner operators can get away with that stuff easy because they're either they work for themselves or they work for very small companies. So they
mhm.
use those type of things a lot. So if you remember in my video, it was another 18 wheeler that was trying to run me off the road with
Ah,
the rigged lights on it. So
yeah, and you're
uh,
a trucker too, aren't you?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I also know like how to spot it, like when something is off, and they the truckers have a way of bullying people, and in your case, he might have not have he might have wanted to try to run you off the road without actually crashing with you because they like to try to do it where there's no evidence left behind and they can keep going. But
Mm.
in your case, he might not have really meant to hit you the way that he did, or maybe he wanted to keep going, but sometimes they screw up is what I'm saying. It's always for plausible deniability. So
Mhm.
it will always be done in a way where you can't prove it. So other
Yeah.
people say, oh, well, just a freak accident. But you know it's not a freak accident because it's tailored towards you. And that's what I was trying to mention in one of my other videos.
Yeah. And it was like I was explaining to Brian, it was just very eerie. Like
Mm,
just before that, I had checked all my mirrors.
mm,
I know
mm,
it just seemed like a Twilight Zone moment.
mm,
And then bam, it happened. It was
mm,
very strange. But at the same time, I don't live in fear.
mm,
If this did or didn't happen on purpose, I don't live in fear
mm.
because fear is how they control you. And um,
No, and
I've come to my inner belief system, so I'm not afraid to die. I don't want to die, but I'm not afraid to die.
yes, we are not suicidal, so that's one reason we wanted to talk to you too.
Yes,
So,
yes,
but we have been threatened before for
yes.
this work that we're doing
Mhm.
against Watchtower and other religions with trying to change the clergy penitent privilege exemption law.
And we testified in the Pennsylvania grand jury. Tell him about the guy,
Right?
what he said.
Okay. Yeah, so I knew we were living in Tucson, Arizona at the time, and we'd go to the hot tub pretty much every night around the same time, plus or minus half an hour. And he would always show up right there and started talking to us. And after about a week, he started digging into what we're doing and things. And we told him, and then we started talking about the Catholic PA Attorney General investigation of the Catholics and all that was found there. And he started, which I already knew about, but telling me about people's names, things that happened to them because they were trying to fight against the Catholic Church. And he ended up warning us, basically, plausible deniability, but he's like, people like you end up getting their houses burnt or their brake lines cut. And
This key phrase, though, tell him the key phrase that makes you think that that guy. I know the people that
oh,
wanted
yes,
to come.
he knew these people, yes.
He knew the people that wanted to cause the harm.
Yes, he knew why they wanted these people. They tried talking to them to get them to be quiet, and they would not be quiet.
Yeah, and then after that, we never saw him at the hot tub again.
Well, yeah, we told them, well, we're not going to be quiet. We're not stopping, and nobody's going to threaten us into silence, and you're going to have to kill us, basically. So that's where we're at. Not that we're living in fear, but we're cautious. We know to keep our head on a swivel, basically. So
Yeah. So, well, thank you for letting us share that. I think it's good for people to know that, this stuff does happen.
And some of the other in the group too, I'll mention, that were fighting the clergy penitent exemption, especially in California. They were threatened also. they say their life was threatened. We weren't
Yeah.
directly, but I guess indirectly. And so they have totally bowed out of
All
trying
activism,
to.
all
Yeah,
activism.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. I think that's, yeah. I think sometimes we lose people because of this.
right.
Hmm. Yeah. So the one that was heading up the legislation reform in California, that's what Brian's talking about. His life was threatened,
Mhm.
him and his wife. Yeah.
Yeah, when you mentioned the thing about the brake line threat too, there was if I can find the pictures, I'm gonna put them on the screen when I upload this video. But so I had a situation where I was working at this company. This was when I was back in Connecticut, but the company itself was in Massachusetts. So they had it was all day cabs, meaning they weren't sleeper trucks or overnight. And I won't get into all of the details, but basically, for some reason, somebody in the office kept insisting that I drive a certain truck number. And the thing that was odd is that all the trucks are not assigned. So it's kind of like, like first come, first serve. It depends on, because you had a 24-hour operation kind of. Actually, not quite 24 hours, but basically, yeah, like 24 hours basically. So you had the day shift and a night shift, but they kind of overlap. So um, I ended up going to the early morning shift instead of the overnight shift that I was working. So an overnight shift, most of the other positions were the night shift. So during the day, there's more available trucks. So anyway, I just came from the night shift, so I knew that there was like I knew a lot of these trucks were available. For some reason, they kept saying, "Oh, take this truck today." And I started to get suspicious, like, why do you keep insisting I drive this truck? Because I already know the routine. It doesn't matter what truck I drive, and by the time I'm done with my shift, it'll be back before anybody needs that truck, and there's so many trucks and they're not assigned. So my intuition just kept telling me like I feel like I'm being set up with something. Whether there's a secret camera in that truck or something else. I just had the feeling that like somebody was manipulated in a dispatch office to say put him in that truck. So I avoided it for like a week or two, and I kept avoiding it for different stupid little reasons. Like one time I complained, oh well, the AC doesn't work, or this or that, or there's not enough. The last driver, the tank's almost empty. I don't want to have to go to the gas station. And I would say for about maybe like a week and a half, I was able to kind of I kept trying to avoid it. And it got to the point where it became too exhausting. I just had to like basically um, like pray about it. Not that I'm praying to Jehovah, but I have my own belief system. I believe we all have spirit guides, angels, whatever you want to call it. I do believe that we have help from the divine.
Yes. Yes.
So I won't get into all the details, but basically it got to the point where I had a bad feeling, but I said, I can't, I'm kind of running out of excuses. So I took that truck. I had to take it a couple times, but anyway, so there's probably like the third time I taken this particular truck. What happened was, so anyone who's a trucker will understand what I'm saying. So I'll try to not to complicate it. So when I hooked up to the trailer, there's something called a tug test that you do to make sure that the trailer is locked in before you even raise the trailer up off the ground. You got tests and everything that you do. So anyway, I did my proper test. The trailer was hooked up, and the back of the tractor has something called a fifth wheel that connects to the trailer. It's a little bit different than a fifth wheel in like a pickup truck. So anyway, it locked in and everything. So I started to drive off, and once I moved out of that space, if the trailer wasn't hooked in correctly, if I'm taking a sharp turn out of a parking spot, if it's not hooked up, it's going to drop there. If it's not connected, when you take a sharp turn, it's gonna fall off the tractor. It didn't. So if I taken a right turn, then I would have went directly out the parking lot and onto the main road, and then like I would have been driving on the main road. So I would have just taken one turn out of the parking spot to go on the main road. But what happened was I was missing my auxiliary cable so I can hook up my phone to the speakers and like listen to podcasts and stuff while I was driving. So I'm like, oh, why do I not have my auxiliary cable? I always have it with me. So I'm like, it must have fell out of my car by accident, which was a little weird anyway for that to happen, for it to fall out. But I'm like, I don't want to drive without it, so I can't listen to podcasts and stuff while I'm driving. So instead of taking a right turn out of the parking spot and out onto the main road, which the highway was right there, I taken a left and to the parking spot for cars, because I'm like, I'm going to go back to my car and look for my auxiliary cable. So the way that I went, I've taken two more sharp turns around the other side of the building instead of going out on the main road. And when I took one of those turns, the trailer completely just fell off the track.
Oh, wow.
And so I took pictures and everything. If I can find them again, I'm going to upload them. I'll put them on this video. But anyway, so the only way that that would have happened, that from what I understand, is if it was rigged in some way. Because if you don't do your proper test, that can happen. If you think you've hooked up to the trailer and it's not secured, it can fall off. But this is what was suspicious about it is that if it doesn't connect, then as soon as you take a sharp turn, the trailer's going to fall right in that spot. You're not going to make it around the block usually. It's going to fall like somewhere, as soon as you take a sharp turn. So when I took the first sharp turn, it didn't fall. So I don't know how it was rigged up, but like the reason I'm talking about the fact I went back for the auxiliary cable is because if I had just taken a right onto the main road, it would have fallen on the street or even on the highway is where it would have fallen off at. And it probably would have fallen off like getting onto the highway when I took a sharper turn. But anyway, because I went back for that cable, whatever happened, it fell off in a parking lot instead of me getting on a highway with it. So I'm pretty sure it was on purpose that something was rigged because it made absolutely no sense that they kept insisting I'm in this particular truck. It made no sense, and I was already thinking like, what is it about this truck that somebody's trying to make me And then another thing that was interesting about that was that as soon as it happened, I started taking pictures and I started to send them to people. And my phone went from like 50% battery to zero. Like somebody sent an electrical charge to completely make it dead. So it almost seemed like as I want to take pictures of it while it's fresh and send them to people, my phone like gets some sort of a charge and it's completely dead. So that was a little odd. So when those things happen too, like I just have to factor in like the probability of these things. That it's like I don't think it's likely that's a mistake. First, they were trying to force me to be in a particular truck. That was weird. It didn't make any sense. Then I hooked up properly, so there's no reason it should have fell off to begin with. And then like as soon as I start taking pictures of it while it's fresh, my phone goes from 50% to 0%. Like it almost seemed like it seemed like a 5G tower like zapped all the juice out of it or something like that. And the reason that's significant is because it happened in the parking lot, so it wasn't like anything that had to be reported. So I was trying to take pictures so I could show it before they send a tow truck to lift the trailer up and do whatever they have to do. So what was odd is that my phone went completely dead when I actually tried taking pictures of it. So I have to look into all these things. Like I don't think that's a coincidence, but these things are always designed for plausible deniability. It's always done in a way where they could say, "Hey, that was just a coincidence. We didn't do nothing." Like it's always done that way.
So that they can say that they can have plausible deniability, and they can say, "Oh, we didn't do anything to you. You have bad luck. That had nothing to do with us. We didn't do anything to you. You have bad luck. That had nothing to do with us. But we didn't do anything to you. You have bad luck. That had nothing to do with us." But all the while, they're in the background pulling the strings and making it happen.
But it's a certain pattern, and that's what it is. Like when it's happening to you, you notice the pattern, you notice the weird cars around you, and like you mentioned that woman with the black SUVs and the New York plates. The reason they all had New York plates is just to try to get her attention, to try to get in her head. That's why they
right. That's exactly what I thought too. Now let me make another point, if you don't mind, because you said
pattern. No, go ahead. Yeah.
One of the patterns too that you mentioned in the video that caught our attention was, I think you titled something about the elite. Like you, Selena Vertolomo, John.
Yeah.
What do you all have in common? You guys are not just out there telling your personal stories. See, that's the point I want to make. If you come out, you come forward and you tell your personal story, you're not really going to get, I mean, no one's going to come after you for that. It's your story, you own it, you can say it. But what the difference is, I've watched some of your videos. You go into some of the darker corners of reality, and you're not afraid to talk about the occult and the existence of this entity that people are not willing to see. Most people will not look at a reality that they can't comprehend. You know, they can't grasp the fact that human trafficking, child trafficking happens in the organized child trafficking happens in the Watchtower Society. Why? Because they didn't experience that themselves. Maybe it was an elder or isolated kind of situation, which that is what most situations are. It's just like, so I do a lot of work in the counter trafficking world, right? And when you think of kidnapping, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? Somebody pulling up with a white van, two guys jump out and they've got, these ski masks on, and they grab a little child and they throw the child in the back of the van and speed off, right? Well, that's in the Hollywood movies. Most trafficking or most kidnapping cases are, custody battles, and most of it is soft, if you will. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing with the child abuse within the organization of Watchtower. Not that any child abuse is soft. Any crime against a child is wrong, detrimental to their entire existence for the rest of their life. But there are degrees to which people have been abused. And this is something that, whether the community is ready to hear it or not, the reality and the fact is that it is time that not just we as Jehovah's Witnesses, but collectively as a world, that we address this issue, because there is a darkness that has entered our worship places, our schools, our institutions. But let's just keep it simple. Let's just talk about our religious institutions. And people sometimes will get offended by me because I'll use the word satanic ritual abuse. First of all, I don't know any other way to describe, that deep, dark of an evil. And it's also very purposeful. That in itself is satanic. So I want to go back to Shannon Simondinger, the girl with the SUVs, following her around. She's definitely, in my eyes, right now, currently the most elite whistleblower that we have out there. She's very brave. She's using her real name. If you go and you read the transcripts from when she testified in the Ernie Fiance criminal trial last year in Maine, she testified about witnessing a ritualistic child murder. And the way that she describes a child murder is the same way that is described in ritualistic abuse situations, case after case after case, all not tied together, different denominations across the globe, not just across the United States, across the globe. So going back to the Selena Vernalomo thing, I've never met her, but I believe her. And if anybody wants to doubt, I just beg you, go in and read the transcripts. Follow Shannon's story, because Shannon's story is not only the truth of what the deepest, darkest occult secrets that are being kept within the organization of Watchtower, LDS, Baptist, Catholics, all of them. It is also very, very well documented. Do you remember when the elders were instructed to destroy all the records on CSA?
I never served as an elder, so I'm not sure about that.
And you're kind of freshly out too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have heard about them in individual congregations burning stuff. I didn't know
Yeah.
if that was a case by case where they were told to burn them or.
No, it was done everywhere. They were supposed to get rid of all the records. But the point I'm making is somehow miraculously by some act of divine intervention, her records were never destroyed.
Mhm.
And when authorities went into the Kingdom Hall with the they can go in and get things, whatever it's called, subpoena or whatever. They got her entire records, and we all have been in those judicial meetings. We all know how the elders keep track of everything, even if it's not in a judicial meeting. They're keeping track of everything about us. There's a reason why they're called the Watchtower. My point is, her case is so well documented that if you just follow her story, it will tell the greater story of what's really going on in the organization. Highly organized enterprises established for the purposeful harming of children through sex trafficking and through torturous techniques of satanic ritual abuse.
And I just want to, I just want to say one thing too to back up what you're saying for people listening is that there's a woman named Kathy O'Brien who does very
Yes.
kind of and she's not affiliated with Jehovah's Witnesses, but if you listen to what Kathy O'Brien says, it's the same type of stuff. So I'm just saying that that's a name where, yeah. So like people can look up her to see that like this stuff, while it may sound crazy, it's real. Another thing I always want to make a point is that when it comes to satanic ritual abuse, I've said this whole time that I've been doing my channel that like there's a reason they habitually keep putting these demonic images in their books. It's like they have to, because I'm like, they did the book recall where they asked everybody to turn in your old books and get rid of them, and then they put everything digital online. So they wanted to get rid of the old books. They were flooded with that satanic stuff, but they're still doing it. They're putting it in the cabin. So it's like, why are they habitually keep doing it? It's because they are devil worshippers at the top of this. It's almost like they have to. I think it's part of their ritualistic abuse that they have to put these images in the literature.
And it's dual purposeful. So if you go onto the FBI's website, you can find images that are used as symbols to advertise what fetishes are allowed. Does that make sense? So if you're into little boys, it's like this little blue triangle that kind of goes around like this. One time Brian and I were driving through, I think it was the state of Texas, and there was on the side of the road was some campground, youth camp, and it had that symbol. See, so that they also put these images in their publications to attract the evil into their organization. Come party with us, we'll protect you. It's an invitation.
They do.
Yeah.
Prisons.
And they do recruiting out of prisons too. They have a program where they go in and they recruit.
Jehovah heals them.
With a specific focus on child molesters.
I was going to say too, you knew the House bill, I think it was in Utah, that they're trying to pass, and it has to do with satanic ritual abuse and the things it lists out in this bill just explicitly that they need a law, they need legislation to stop these dark things from happening. Just goes to prove that they are happening.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned the thing about those symbols, a couple of subscribers have been asking me, what is the symbol on Sophia's backpack that I keep showing like a preview of? It's also like a language for like these people to understand. So the symbols won't always be the exact same way as they're on a website, because at the same time, these child trafficking rings, like they are smart, so they know if they use the exact symbol the way that the FBI has already identified is going to be too obvious. So sometimes they will slightly change it, but it's like a language. So like you said, the swirl around, it's like it'll have the same characteristics, even if like the colors are a little different or like the shapes are a little different. It's like a language.
Yeah.
And when you spot one, you'll see other ones. So the one that I pointed out on Sophia's backpack, there's other ones that you're gonna find that I'm also gonna expose when I do a full breakdown video of it. But I found at least like three of them that are obvious references to that in the Caleb and Sophia cartoon. So why would they put that in a children's cartoon unless it's exactly what you're saying? It is. It's a way for
Yeah.
those who are in that to know,
Yeah.
okay, that's what goes on here. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, um, and it's interesting too that I did a video recently about how they want to now say that symbols don't matter, and it's
Yeah.
because it's getting to the point where they can't hide from these symbols. These like there's a mass awakening from this organization. So like at this point, it's like the only thing they can do is say, well, hey, just convince the members. Oh, don't worry, that symbols don't matter. Of course they matter.
And it's not just the members are trying to convince, just recently, within the past few years, Russell's pyramid was removed from the cemetery. Well, what was on that pyramid was the cross and crown and other Masonic symbolisms, so they're trying to, remove that from public
Oh
eye
yeah.
so that, they can have deniability. But I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about the legislation, and which further proves the issue, because that is what I do. I work in legislation, so I notice things, right? And in Utah, they've had several different bills, more than just one, that specifically addresses ritual abuse, up to and including, the child murders and cannibalism. So why are lawmakers making these things into law if they are not an issue? That's my question. What, are they just making a law to make a law? Like, that just seems, I mean, to make a law like that feeds the quote unquote conspiracy, because people want to call us crazy because the tunnels don't exist, right?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because if I could just jump in real quick about the tunnel. So in the very first YouTube video I've ever done, it's called Jehovah's Witnesses Are the New World Order. I mentioned the tunnel system, and I'm not from New York, so yeah, I don't know how common it is to have tunnels, but I question whether or not those tunnels have to do with human trafficking. And I thought it was interesting what you told me about something about that some of those tunnels were not on the blueprints, and they were like covered up or something before they sold the building or something. But maybe you could touch on that a little bit so my
Yeah,
audience
I mean,
hears that.
I only know what I heard. The purchaser. So this is kind of an interesting point. So Watchtower buildings were originally sold to Jared Kushner, that's the son-in-law to Donald Trump. So and then he praises, like you said, he praised Watchtower and everything. They put his video up on their website. Well, what really caught my attention was when they took the video off of their website, just like they removed the pyramid. What are they trying to hide? What is their quote unquote occult secret that they don't want us to know? So I went in and I found some of the more recent videos of Jared Kushner speaking about the Watchtower buildings. And that's where he had said about some of the tunnels, how it was odd that they weren't on the original blueprints, for the building. And so if you go down to like the city, like where you put, you have to put, if you build something, you have to building code people, right? So it wasn't on there, but it was there, and then in the buildings. And then Jared also mentioned about how they had been filled in before the purchase of the building. So there wasn't even a way for him to, as the new owner, to use the tunnels for whatever. I mean, it'd be great to have that extra space, especially in New York City, right? Yeah, so that's when his video was taken, praising witnesses was taken off their website. So I just found that odd. It doesn't.
And the video of him mentioning that was taken down also.
Oh yeah, right. And you can't find the video of him mentioning about the tunnels either anymore. And I'm not the only person that has seen it. I've talked to other former Jehovah Witnesses that go down these same
Right.
rabbit holes as me. Yeah, so just
Yeah, now,
an odd thing.
there was an EXJW, I'm forgetting his name, but
Bo.
no, I'm gonna put it on the screen when I upload this video, his YouTube channel. But he talked about how he used the Wayback Machine to find some stuff that has been removed off the internet. So I don't know much about the Wayback Machine, how it works,
Yeah.
but it's something that like all the internet stuff, it's never, people say it's never really off the internet. So the Wayback Machine, it can go back to certain websites and view them as they were several years ago. So this channel that I'm talking about, he used the Wayback Machine to go to jw.org and be able to find some of the videos that they actually removed. And it actually worked. I think it's a process, but I'll put his channel on the screen, and that's just an avenue for those who maybe want to find that, because it probably can still be found somewhere.
Yeah, somebody
both
way more
videos.
tech savvy than me.
Yeah.
I can barely turn the computer on.
But with that being said, I just want to put this as a message to all researchers: is that this is why you always download stuff when you find it, because you never know if it's something incriminating. You never know if it's gonna disappear. So I always try to download anything that I think is crucial that may end up disappearing for that reason.
Yeah, boy, I wish I would have known that when I started my research.
The only real danger where you're not protected is if you're isolated, and that's why these programs, when a person is stalked and harassed like this, they try to isolate the person. And going back to Selena again, I've never met her, and I can't verify everything she said is true. I believe what she's saying about Tony Morris, but like the danger, and this is why I made my last video where I kind of defended her a little more as far as people being open-minded about it, is that she is now isolated in the XJW community.
Yes.
So, and that's what they try to do, because if they can get everybody to kind of cut you off and not trust you, then it can be more dangerous, because then it's like, if Selena's going through something right now, well, who's she going to tell? Nobody. Everybody's attacking her in the XJW community. Her social media stuff is gone, and she might have not even been the one to do it herself. Who knows? But I just want to put that out there, that like, the more people that come forward, the more stronger protection that you have.
Yes.
Right.
So,
and we do have a safety net for those that want to come forward and have the darker truths to tell us. We do have a very secure, we have a secure messaging system that the investigators use. They can use aliases, but they are safe in coming forward to us because we are going to believe them, which is the first hurdle. I mean, it doesn't matter, what level of abuse you've suffered. That hurts worse, is the disbelief and the gaslighting, not just from your abuser, but from your entire community of people, not believing you. And then to finally find the XJW world where we're all coming together for many reasons, but one of the main reasons we come together is to be validated. My pain is validated because you too have felt this pain. I mean, look, you made this video and you said you've had at least 15 different people reach out to you. They feel validated and they feel safe with you. See? So the more that we all come out and tell our stories, the more it will reveal. And I want to make another major point here. We all feel like our advocacy isn't changing anything. So I've been out there being very vocal for the past probably 6 months now about my lawsuit that's coming out. And one of the key points in my lawsuit is about forced child labor. Just recently, the Watchtower made changes where if you're under the age of 18, you can't go out door to door without your parent. So do you think that might have had something to do with them knowing that these lawsuits are going to be coming forward that are going to include forced child labor?
I would definitely say yes, because again, it goes into the pattern, the template of Watchtower, because
Right.
I remember when they made the change about disfellowshipping, even
Yes.
myself, I thought, okay, they're just desperate for new members, which they are desperate for new members. They are desperate to try to get people back. But when I looked at other people's research, I could see there was more to it than that. It's because in other countries, they were, what was it? They were getting sued or something for,
Yes.
or they were going to
Yes.
take away their tax status.
Because
So that's why they started to make these adjustments. Okay, you
right.
can talk to a person, and it's your discretion. So that what you're saying, it fits the pattern because that is
Yeah.
how Watchtower is.
Right.
Yes, they will always change things when they feel the pressure's coming on them.
So, in that respect, our collective voice and coming forward about the forced child labor, it's already having a positive effect for the children that are still in the organization. We might not be able to, completely destroy the organization, or everybody's got different opinions on how this should be tackled. Personally, I think everyone should be able to believe and worship the way they want, as long as children are not being harmed, period.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that ends up translating to. And one of the things for me was, having to go door to door, Kingdom Hall builds, all of that. It just felt like forced slave labor.
Yeah, we both left school like in the afternoons to go. I was an auxiliary pioneer.
Yeah, him and I both got. I was a regular pioneer, beginning about 7th or 8th grade. So I only went to school for a couple of classes, and then I would be out in the field ministry the rest of the day. So I lost out on an education too, all to go sell propaganda magazines to promote global genocide. That's a healthy childhood there.
I kind of felt as forced labor, even as an adult, I felt forced labor. Like the conventions is like if you were a brother, you were like automatically like we gotta work at the convention. So like you don't get a break. So it's like parking. It's like you got to be there like the crack of dawn and eat and all that. And I felt forced labor even as an adult because you can't say no to the assignments because otherwise you're not spiritual, right? So
Right.
and the thing too that bothers me about that is that they can pay their people. What if you have an assignment at the convention? Why can't you pay them? Even if it's minimum wage, why can't you pay the brothers and sisters that are working all convention long? But it's like it's all like forced labor almost, even amongst the adults.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
It's crazy, and that burns people out too because the witnesses are slaving and slaving and slaving. If witnesses got paid, like say like okay, there's a district convention coming and attendance and everything got a salary. That would be a little bit less stressful because at least they know, okay, I'm making some money this weekend, not just being burnt out. But one of the things that I look forward to the most when I stop going to the meetings, I'm like, great, I never have to go to convention again. I hated those conventions. I hated them. And it's like then it's like halfway or towards the end of the meeting or the convention, I gotta walk laps around the building just to stay awake because I'm so tired. And then I'm
Right.
thinking that like there's probably hypnosis going on too, which is why everybody's so tired. Like, but
Right.
I hated the conventions.
Yeah, good point on the
Yeah.
hypnosis.
And she came to me a couple months ago, maybe now, and she's like, "Hey, I want to go to a EXJW convention," and I'm like, "Bleep, no, there's no way I'm going to another convention." And then she told me what it was all about, and then I've been getting to know some of the people that are going to be at the convention and things, and I've changed my mind. So,
Do you know about the former Jehovah Witness convention that's going to be in Boston, August 1, 2, and 3?
I do, and I have my own kind of reservations why I don't want to go, but hey, let me know how it works out. I'm sure there's
Well,
gonna
I'm
be videos on
excited.
it.
I'm speaking. My attorney's speaking. The private investigators that I commissioned to help us, they're coming and speaking. They're the ones that are making sure the cases are ironclad. So we're blessed to have them. Really blessed to have them because they know what to put into the package. To make a judge.
Right, and they're getting results now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know how much we can talk about, but
Yeah, we're
getting results.
getting movement on it. It's just going to be an amazing project. So, and the more of us that come out, the safer we are.
Mhm.
And the average voice is, you're not going to get harassed. You know, I've been doing this work solidly for 10 years.
Right. They want
I'm
at least
safe.
1,000.
I mean, pretty much.
1,000 EXJWs or current JW cases.
Yeah, I mean, more than 1,000 if we can
to
get
show,
them.
you know, the pattern, and it's
Yeah.
more than just child sexual
And the
abuse.
beautiful thing I love about this legal team and their approach to this is most attorneys will only deal with the CSA stuff. Their words exactly are, "We will gladly build out a case for any crimes against children." I mean, that's just I'm not Christian, but I don't know how else to say it. That's just a voice of God speaking right there. You know, that's what we are supposed to do. The very most humane thing we can do is to care about the children. Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that about the convention, what your role is in that, and who's going to be there, because that might shed some light on people that has reservations about going. Because I kind of vision it just being like just random XJWs, like just
Mm,
giving talks, like I guess I'm automatically visioning like a JW convention, just with
yeah.
XJW speakers, and which is not appealing to me. But hearing that you're going to be there and what you're bringing, and the so that puts a different perspective on it. So for anyone that's thinking about going to it, now you have something also to look forward to. That hey, there's going to be something there actually of more value than just like just random people just giving talks. And I think that's probably a lot of reservations um that people have, such as myself, is just visioning
Mhm.
a JW convention. It's like, why do I want to go to that? You know, even though
Well, and it's hard to go back to things that feel like Watchtower,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
sometimes it works.
But
Yeah.
one more thing I wanted to touch on is is something we talked about off camera before we were recording, like the first time I think we spoke, is my theory on, I know other people have this theory too, so I just want to put this out there for everybody, is that I believe that the real purpose of the book study at
Mm,
people's houses was, I think that was the main way for a lot of the child trafficking within the organization.
I agree.
And one reason why I think that I'm very suspicious of that is because, number one, I understand if they don't have a building of their own and they could say, okay, to save money, let's go to the person's house because we can save money because we don't have a building of our own and we have to rent. But when they have a building owned by them, why would an organization, any church, decide when they have a building, let's meet in small groups into people's homes at nighttime? You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? I mean, if anything, if you're going to have a book study, why not Saturday morning instead of Saturday morning service, at least in the daytime? But it's like at nighttime in the evening, you know, and why do that when you have a building to go to? So like the book study was always suspicious. And then the reason that they gave why they got rid of it is they said, well, we're getting rid of a book study because we want you to have family study with your family. So that was their excuse. And it's like, what kind of crap is that? Because if you had an actual meeting and it was 3 meetings a week, an actual meeting, why would you suddenly decide, well, take this night off just to have family study? So I think that they got rid of the book study because I think that a lot of the child trafficking was during that. And I think that, you know, maybe like some of those tunnels in Brooklyn that they sealed up, I think it was something that maybe something got leaked or whatever. And they felt like, you know, we need to get rid of this arrangement before anybody finds out about it. So that's just my theory. Um,
Yeah.
but from yourself, like I know you had said that you were, you know, you were sexually abused, and I think you said it was during the book study, right? So maybe
Well,
you can
not
elaborate on what. Okay.
necessarily during the book study, but yeah, I will share my personal experience on this because, you know, our own, that's why it's so important for us all to come forward,
Mhm.
because our personal experiences collectively tell the full story. So for for instance, we had book study in our home, And so the neighbors were conditioned to see people coming and going. I think that's another reason why. If you have a house where they have frequent visitors, they're probably drug trafficking or something. It's suspicious activity. It's on the radar for any good law enforcement or detective, right? So if you have book study, and then we also met in the house separately for field service, like on Saturday mornings, Tuesday night book study, Saturday morning. So that got the neighbors used to people coming and going. But in my instance, I was drugged and then sexually assaulted. Like, not in the beginning, like things progressively got worse. But during the time frame where I was being drugged and sexually assaulted, I had a neighbor, older man, that used to watch from his window. And now that I'm an older person and I go back into those conversations that he had with me, I've now realized what he was trying to pull out of me. He would ask a lot of questions about the people coming and going and who, what's going on at your house. And, I would tell him, well, that's our book study people, and he's like, no, this is going on at these hours of the night. Your bedroom light is on. I see movement in your bedroom. It's a school night, it's midnight hours. It made no sense until you go back and you look at what was happening. I was being drugged. I would wake up next day not feeling like I had been through a war. Let's just put it that way. And no clear memory of it, of my own. So, maybe that's more of an extreme case. But I do believe that it does offer, everything they do has a purpose behind it. And I do think we should stop, pause, and question everything. Everything.
I was going to say that is a good point. I want everybody listening to this to think about what Stephanie said is like, yeah, that conditions the neighbors to have people coming and going during the book study. Nobody's going to question it. And it's always usually elders that are ahead of the book study too. So it like perfect grounds for sexual child abuse within the organization.
Right.
And even though that yours was, sometimes during past the book study hours, it still created, like you said, that desensitization of neighbors not really paying attention. Good thing that neighbor was aware of it, but the average neighbor is just going to be, oh yeah, cars, droves, witnesses. Yep, they always gather together like that.
Right.
And I remember times where I remember being out in service and sometimes an elder would go door to door with a little girl. Like I've seen it. And it would kind of be played off like, and I'm not saying that particular elder that I'm thinking of was doing anything, but that type of behavior was normal because it's like, a woman's mindset. Oh yeah, go work with elder so and so. He's appointed by Jehovah. So like you see a lot of that stuff where they blindly trust because like they're appointed by Jehovah. And like what better way to not have people question who's with their kids when they're appointed by Jehovah. So it's really dark and twisted the way everything works. That they do it right in plain sight. But now that we've talked about this, anybody watching this, if you have been sexually abused during a book study, please let me know because, if that's what was going on, I think that more people need to come forward and expose that, that just like, again, there's no reason that they should have a book study to begin with. I don't know any other religion that would ever think of doing that when they have a building of their own. Let's meet individual places twice a week. Yeah.
Very odd. And I also want to say, to your viewers that if anybody wants to get a hold of me and has any questions on how to file their own lawsuit, what the process is, or if they just want an advocate, somebody to hear them, maybe they haven't told their story before, I can be just an advocate too. We don't have to do anything with your story. That you own your story. It is yours. Um, I'm willing to hear everyone's truth, and my goal is to help at least 1,000 people to gain some type of civil justice, because they deserve it, first of all. And secondly, because that momentum will catapult cultural change for the entire world.
So, any contact information I can always put in the description of the video, but is there any specific way that you want to put that out there for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, actually, if they want, they don't have to. They don't have to even contact me. I'm just offering myself as a contact. But if they want to pursue legal justice, they'll want to get a hold of, his name is Max. He's the investigator that's been assigned to take the intake of the influx of Watchtower cases. With wanting to file like 100 cases or 1,000 cases, that's a lot of phone calls to take. So they've assigned just one person. His name is Max. And his phone number, I'm allowed to give it out, so you can put it right there on your
Okay.
screen. His phone number is 587-858-3081. And he'll do like a simple questionnaire with you, and it's nothing gory. It's really a soft interview, if you will.
He's very empathetic
Yeah.
to people too. He is good to work with. So
Yeah. And he was the one that said, I'll gladly build out a case for any crimes against children. I mean, when he texted that to me, I literally got tears in my eyes. I told him, I said, are you for real? Like, we're really like opening this up to, all these other things that no one else is willing to look at. We've all suffered these terrible, terrible things. And that's all we ever hear about is the CSA, the CSA, the CSA. But, he's willing to look at the other crimes too and try to form cases on those. I told him, I said, wow, we open this up, it's going to be like Christmas morning for an orphan that, a room full of orphans that have never known about Santa Claus. It's really offers a lot of healing for us as a community, I think.
So this is the second half of Stephanie and Brian's story. After we recorded the first part, there was a couple important details that they thought should be heard. So I'm gonna give the floor again to Stephanie and Brian to explain more of their personal story.
yeah, thanks, Quinn. After our discussion, and you had brought up about the book study question and that your theory on that, and I started thinking about it, and honestly, I've blocked out many of the years of my life. I guess it's just a natural thing that you might do to block out trauma, right? And to deal with life. So, but one thing that did trigger was a memory that my predator was actually at our little in-home book study with one of the ministerial servants. And ironically, the ministerial servant had, I believe, 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl, and they were all maybe aged, 2 to
the
13.
oldest was my age. Yeah, the
Okay.
oldest was my age, so 5 years younger than you, down to toddler-ish age.
Yeah, so very, young children. And
the wife was inactive, so they were kind of spiritually weak, which is unusual to have a book study in your home when you're not,
yeah.
know.
And I don't remember who else was at the book study. I've asked my sister if she remembers, but she hasn't responded yet. So, but It's just kind of ironic that the elders would have known that he was a predator, and we know of at least two boys uh, that at that time would have, you know, been drugged and raped. And so they did not warn anybody. They put him right in the book study with a home with small children, including myself. But I wasn't as small, I was like 16 and 17, I believe, at that time. So kind of just wanted to bring that up and let you know about that. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, a point I wanted to make too, things that I saw that, because I watched this happen to kids around. Not only did this happen to me too, but I watched what happened to the boys, from a different perspective because my brother had run away and, I was noticing the same traits with the other boys. They were really good boys, really sweet. And then all of a sudden they went off the rails, because of their trauma. Well, that happened with Brian. Whatever had happened with him, he went from being just everything you could imagine a perfect young man to be.
Yeah, I was trying to live up to the expectations.
Yeah, he was an amazing young brother. And then all of a sudden he lost his mind, if you will, like my brother did that had run away. But a key point I want to make, when my brother ran away, it took him about 6 months. My brother also had other hurdles put in front of him, but it took him 6 months to get, and he ran away and he reported his abuse to the police. So between that time from when my brother ran away and that 6 month period is when Brian was drugged and raped by this by this predator, right? But when my brother was able to file criminal charges against this man, see, my brother was such a hero. He filed criminal charges. Then the elders panicked. And at that point, they moved the predator into the home where Brian was having the book study, okay? So the ministerial servant with the 5 little kids with the inactive wife. It was like they wanted to just appease him, feed him, keep him happy.
Can't figure it
out. Because they didn't know what else to do with him. And it was absolutely shocking as a little 11, 12-year-old girl to watch these people that were supposed to be our protectors. And that was the elders' idea to move him into that home. That's sex trafficking. People are having a hard time with the definition that we're using, but that is sex trafficking. And, so another point I want to make is that this community needs to get used to the terminology and the full definition of it, because otherwise we're not going to be able to make cultural change and to change what's really going on within Watchtower.
Yeah. And come to think of it, I probably would not have felt comfortable to go to this predator's house if I had not associated with him at the book study,
Yeah, because the book studies are intimate. It's made to, that's supposed to be, your core group when Armageddon hits. That's your family. Those are the ones that are going to get you through Armageddon to make sure that you get everlasting life and to protect you from the authorities and all the persecution that's going to come, the war that's going to come to your door.
Yeah, and I think we got into this a little bit before when we talked, but it seems like they want to have control over you, so they find a way to try to get control over you, and if they can't get control over you, they just discard you. So, and I think I mentioned that was the hardest part, was being discarded. All the people you loved or thought loved you for years and years, all of a sudden were gone. There was no support system whatsoever. So.
Yeah, and then the elders actually, when it made it to court, when my brother's criminal trial against this predator went to court, the elders actually stood in court with the predator. And at this point, we know of boy after boy after boy after boy over a very extended amount of time. So blue envelope after blue envelope was being sent into headquarters over the same predator, but they kept purposefully allowing this to happen. So, and that intimacy that they create with the smaller groups is an issue and does feed into the problem of the trafficking.
I think that's a perfect definition that you mentioned, Stephanie, about the definition of trafficking, because that's what it is. You're arranging these things.
Yeah.
If they know that this guy is a known pedophile, then and they say, oh, we're going to put him in this group and
Right.
put him with this people, so anyway, that confirms my theory. I think that that was used for that.
Yes, and it goes beyond not beyond just the book study groups. Look at Candace Conti's court records, and it was testified in that court records that the elders knew this man was a predator, but sent a letter of recommendation ahead to the new congregation, specifically stating that he was good with the youth. Now, do they send letters of recommendation about he's good with the elderly? He's good with, brothers his own age? No, they seem to point out, hey, this is somebody you got to feed. This is somebody you got to feed his desires. He's going to serve our purpose of traumatizing this congregation. So instead of trafficking the children, they traffic the predator to the children.
I really appreciate what both of you are doing. Especially Brian, I'm so happy that you came back to explain that detail, because it's going to help other people who are victims too, who are male victims, who may have a hard time talking about that.
Right. It's hard to make the link, to put everything together. And I guess that's the definition of paranoia, is being, and you're really good at this, being paranoid and thinking about every possible
puzzle pieces,
reason why something would happen. And some things you just can't figure out. But, if you don't have that thought in your mind, it's hard to get to that point.
Yeah, you have to really start to think the way that their mind thinks. And I think that's what makes this work hard. Right, Quinn?
Exactly.
Because you have to enter the darkness in order to lead people out of the light, even if that person is yourself.
Right.
And I want to just say too, I also appreciate, Stephanie, that you're not afraid after that whole car incident thing happened, because it's happened to me. I didn't actually run off the road, but they've tried to do it. They've tried to do it to John's friend, and I think John himself, and Selena's talked about it. So and there are some people who they would just give up and say, okay, I won't say anything. I'll delete my channel. I'll stay quiet. But no, so it takes courage to say you're not afraid, basically, and of course coming forward just makes you stronger too. So I think that both of your perspectives and then the joint work you're doing together with the legal stuff is awesome. And
I have the phrase I use, it's blessed or the curse to have lived it. And it really is a blessing. And I think, when you do the inner work to heal, you find a place that is eternal. For some people that's God and Jesus. For other people, I see things more as a life energy force, always beginning and never ending. So when you reach that point, you just don't give two F's anymore. So what are you gonna do? Kill me? I'll still be around.
Right. And one thing that most people don't see is just how strong of a woman Stephanie is, because she does a lot for other people. She has people calling her, she's helping, but she's in constant PTSD. So she comes down to, nobody sees that part, the part that is just the struggle with the whole thing, but still she's determined not to give up.
Yeah.
So I respect
vomiting
that,
and everything.
Yeah.
It's just, normal occurrence,
Yeah,
the trauma response.
I have some pictures of the day after, basically, I call them. It's, it
Yeah.
puts you through a lot to do this kind of work. So
Yeah,
we-
no,
we-
you're right.
we
You're right.
appreciate-
We appreciate people like you.
Yes,
I mean,
right.
I watched
Anybody that
for the
does
first
this.
time. I watched Selena Bertolomo's Jimmy Bell interview. I had never really watched her talk. I had seen the video of her, going to the Toni Morrison Kingdom Hall, but I had never really listened to her to hear her perspective and her interpretation. And one thing I really appreciated about her is how she has really studied the intellect of and the psychological
Yeah.
side of this. And yeah, she's very intelligent. She definitely has things figured out, and that's why she's a threat to Watchtower.
Yeah.
And like I say too, it's all of our own personal perspective. It doesn't mean everything I say is 1,000%. It's my perspective of how I have translated the world around me. It doesn't mean I have everything figured out. It doesn't mean she has everything figured out. And it doesn't mean everything, we got to take everybody's truth with a grain of salt. There you go.
Yeah, and I think. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and it is difficult for people to talk about these things, especially at first, but it does get easier, and eventually it does help. It took me 32 years before I told anybody about what happened, because the elders basically told me if I say anything to anybody, I'm bringing reproach upon Jehovah. I'll have blood on my hands, basically, because I'm not forgiving the predator. But so it's probably not the same for everybody, but for me it does help to talk about it now that maybe I can help somebody else that would want to
turning
talk about
darkness
it.
into
And
light.
just listening to people and people listening to you about your story, it does help you immensely. So I think, anyways.
And there's strength in numbers.
Right, yes.
The more of us that
Right.
come forward about all of our atrocities, the quicker things can get changed.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for having us on, Quinn.
Thank you, and thank you for all the incredible work you're doing. And I will definitely reach out to you again, probably in a few months, and maybe have you back on, and you can give us an update on the legal stuff going on.
Well, I see things more as a life energy force,
Mhm.
always beginning and never ending. So when you reach that point, you just don't give two F's anymore.
Mhm.
So what are you gonna do? Kill me? I'll still be around.
Right,
I'll still be around.
right,
I'll still be around.
right. I'm going to be quiet. We're not stopping, and nobody's going to threaten us into silence. And I'm going to be quiet. We're not stopping, and nobody's going to threaten us into silence. And be quiet. We're not stopping, and nobody's going to threaten us into silence. And
why these boneheads, right? Why this kind of stuff doesn't work with me? Why these boneheads, right? Why this kind of stuff doesn't work with me? Why these boneheads, right? Why this kind of stuff doesn't work with me? Why am I going to be afraid of someone that's so much of a coward that they would park a car, then go run and hide away somewhere, and I'm going to be afraid of a bumper sticker?